Hi, welcome back to my channel. Today I will talk about the jaw or maxilla for you. If you are interested in anatomy, medicine, you are planning to go to this or similar studies, please subscribe my channel and give a thumbs up. This will make my channel more interesting for companies selling anatomical models. And maybe I can get another model for an affordable price that later I can discuss for you. Let's start. Maxilla is the second largest bone of the skull. It consists of the body of maxilla, and 4 processes: zygomatic process, frontal process, alveolar process, and Palatine process. Body of maxilla has 3 side walls and 4th, the base, thanks to which it resembles a triangular pyramid, the apex of which is the zygomatic process. Now I will list the walls, also called surfaces, for you. There are 4 of them. Anterior, called buccal. Posterior, called infratemporal. Superior, called orbital. And medial, called nasal. Okay, now let's go over all the structures on each of the 4 surfaces of body of maxilla. First, anterior, called buccal surface. It has 7 elements. First is infraorbital foramen. You can see on this bone the same. Next structure is canine fossa. It is located just below the infraorbital foramen. Next structure is nasal notch. Right here, it forms the medial edge of the anterior wall. At the same time, it is a part of piriform foramen. Right here, you can see. Next element is anterior nasal spine. Here, superior edge, infraorbital margin. Next, you can see lateral margin, which passes into zygomatic process in the upper part and into the back wall of body of maxilla in the lower part. Last structure at the anterior wall is zygomatic alveolar crest, which runs from the zygomatic process to the first molar. It forms the border between anterior and posterior wall of body of maxilla. Now, let's discuss posterior infratemporal surface. It has two elements: tuberosity of maxilla and alveolar foramina, through which the superior posterior dentate nerves and vessels go. Besides, the infratemporal surface is important because its medial surface is the anterior wall of pterygopalatine fossa. Okay, so now, superior called orbital surface of body of maxilla. It is smooth and triangular with three edges: medial. The medial edge connects to the lacrimal bone, ethmoid bone, and palatine bone. Now, I will show you how these bones connect. As you can see, lacrimal bone, ethmoid, and orbital process of palatine bone, about which I talked in the second episode of this series. So if you haven't seen it, you will find the link by clicking right here. Okay, so you understand the medial border. Now, anterior border. It goes to the side into the zygomatic process. Posterior border limits the inferior orbital fissure, which includes the infraorbital nerve and artery, the zygomatic nerve, and the inferior orbital vein. Don't worry, you just have to know it later, but it would be nice to get it now, right? The superior surface of body of maxilla has one structure, infraorbital groove, which forms in the body of maxilla the infraorbital canal, the opening of which is the infraorbital foramen on the anterior surface of body of maxilla. Now I will discuss the medial surface of body of maxilla. It is involved in the formation of lateral wall of the nasal cavity and contains four structures. First, maxillary hiatus. It leads to the maxillary sinus. Next, greater palatine groove, which together with the similar groove on palatine bone creates greater palatine canal. Look, greater palatine canal right here. Next element is the lacrimal groove, right here. It is closed by lacrimal bone and inferior nasal concha. This is also a bone. Together they are forming nasolacrimal canal. The last structure is conchal crest, to which the inferior nasal concha attaches. Remember, the palatine bone also had this structure. Look, right here. Okay, now a moment of brief. I know that the topic is complicated, but I will cheer you up by telling you about the maxillary sinus. It is 25 cubic centimeters, so it is really roomy. Do you know those big syringes for administrating intravenous drugs? They have 20 milliliters. Also, in a newborn, maxillary sinus is a size of a pea, and the final size of the sinus is obtained after we change milk teeth to permanent teeth. We have already discussed body of maxilla. Now we will work out all of 4 processes. First, zygomatic process. The zygomatic process at the top connects to the zygomatic bone with the help of zygomatic suture. In addition, it contains one structure which was already in the body, the zygomatical alveolar crest. Next, frontal process. It has 2 surfaces, lateral and medial. Medial surface forms the side wall of the nasal cavity and contains one structure, ethmoidal crest. Here you can see it. The frontal process has 3 edges. Superior, that connects to the nasal part of frontal bone. Anterior, that connects to the nasal bone. And posterior, that contains the structure of the lacrimal groove. Right here, the lateral edge of which forms an anterior lacrimal crest, about which I will talk in the penultimate episode of this series, when I will discuss small bones of the skull. Next process is alveolar process. It creates an alveolar arch with 8 holes, dental alveoli. Do you remember alveolar jokes in mandible? Maxilla has them also, but they are much more visible here. Before we move on to the next process, such a little curiosity. The alveolar process does not occur in newborns. It develops only during the eruption of milk teeth, and in very old people, when their teeth fall out, it disappears again, causing the face to shorten and cheeks and lips to sag. Probably you were able to observe such a process in one of your great-grandmothers. My advice is, brush your teeth, because if you lose them, your alveolar process will disappear. Now, let's discuss the last process, Palatine process. On the medial border, it connects to the Palatine process of the second maxilla. On the posterior border, it connects to anterior edge of the horizontal plate of palatine bone. As you can see, it has two surfaces. Superior, smooth, which is the bottom of the nasal cavity, and inferior, that is forming 3/4 of the hard palate. This is an important information, often occurs in tests. On the inferior surface, there are palatal furrows that run from the back to the front. The incisive canal right here, which extends at the incisors, it is a place where vessels and nerves pass. Next, the incisive bone. The incisive bone is the part containing incisors fused with the rest of the maxilla. The palatine process has 3 edges. Lateral, it fuses with the body of maxilla. Medial, connects to the palatine process of the second maxilla and has 2 structures. Nasal crest and anterior nasal spine, just like at the anterior surface of body of maxilla. So now the case of posterior nasal spine in the palatine bone is solved. Look, anterior nasal spine and posterior nasal spine. The posterior border of palatine process of maxilla connects to the horizontal plate of palatine bone. This is the end of this movie. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up. And if you would like to know how the parietal bone is built, please subscribe to my channel so you don't miss the next episode, which will appear on this channel next Tuesday. Also, remember about the free table with structures that you can always apply for in an email. Besides, I would like to greet my regular viewer Piotruś. Hello Piotruś! Thank you for watching my videos. Take care, bye!